Okay, now let's bring in the first of tonight's two all-star panels now. And I am joined tonight by former Labour Senator Graham Richardson and former Liberal Senator and Sky News host Amanda Stoker. Now, it's just Amanda Stoker here tonight, sorry. And I want to start out, Amanda, just by talking to you a bit more about The Voice and Bill Shorten. Now, Bill Shorten has taken aim at opposition leader Peter Dutton after he quite rightly called for more detail on The Voice in an open letter to the Prime Minister. We were just speaking about that a moment ago. But have a listen to what Bill Shorten had to say.
There's plenty of detail out there, and I think some in the opposition just need to prioritise first Australians rather than their own political goals.
Now, Amanda, the government is so quick to say that anyone who dares speak a bad word about The Voice or even questions it doesn't care about Indigenous people. Surely that is nonsense. I mean, what do you make of this kind of virtue signaling but also baiting and gaslighting of people on this issue?
Look, if for Peter Dutton to ask who's going to be on it, what's it going to look like, how often's it going to meet, what's it going to do to the way that our Constitution is interpreted, amounts to anything other than just being a responsible adult in the position that he's in, well, then people have lost the plot entirely. It is his sworn responsibility to work out what this thing is going to do before he provides guidance either to the party room or to the Australian public more generally about how it should be handled. And the suggestion that to ask those sensible, prudent, careful questions about something as important as Australia's Indigenous people, their representation and the Constitution that unites us all, these things have to be asked and they have to be answered.
Indeed, but I want to bring in Graham Richardson now, one of the great all-time strategists of the Labour Party. I'd love to ask you what you think your thoughts are on the strategy that Labour is running here, because it seems to me like they've gone really, really hard and really, really fast, and they're just relying on some sort of momentum of goodwill and, to heck with anybody who has any questions about it. What do you think that they've gotten in a little over their head on this with their response to people with legitimate questions about this?
Yeah, well, I think they've certainly raced too far, way too quickly. And I think they ought to take a deep breath before they take any more steps forward. I think they've left Australia behind. I think on this question, Labor are way out in front and the country's behind saying, listen, where are you blokes going? I think it's been poorly handled. And I think there's been too much taking for granted that all Labor people will just follow the line. I think on a question like this, a lot of people have their own views. I've got mine. I'm not real keen on The Voice. I never have been. And so I find myself in that sense in a politically difficult position.
Indeed, indeed. I want to move on, though, to another issue, because we talked a lot about migration yesterday, and now there's a new report. The Regional Australia Institute has called on the government to redesign the country's migration program to what they've called rebalance the nation's population. And it's proposed a plan to double the number of migrants settling in regions to help fill what they say are significant job shortages. But Amanda Stoker, I want to go to you first on this. Shouldn't we be focusing on strengthening our domestic policies rather than relying simply on migrants? Haven't we learned anything from the pandemic that you can keep bringing people in to grow the GDP, but that doesn't do anything at all to increase the actual share of that GDP for people if you're not increasing productivity?
I think, in a way, both are right. You can use migration in a relatively short-term sense to fill gaps, but in the long term, absolutely, we need to become more productive and we need to be more effective as a nation at making the most of what we've got, because we have been blessed with an awful lot in this great country, and if we use it wisely, it can take us an awfully long way. But right now, there's over 200,000 job vacancies in regional Australia. They're crying out for skills, they're crying out for labour, and the productivity of this nation's being held back by the fact that there's no one doing those jobs. So I think there's a great opportunity here to use migration in the short term, But there's also an opportunity for any Australians who might be on the JobSeeker list to seize the opportunity too, get a bit of wonderful country life, get the beautiful environment that comes in Australia's regions, and get that housing affordability and great job prospects that come with it.
Yeah, I just don't know, Amanda, how you can have so many people on JobSeeker on one hand in the cities and so many jobs going begging in the bush on the other. I just don't know how that works. But, Richo, let's turn to another question, because I read this story today and I thought, we're going to have Richo on tonight. I got to ask him about this. The Australian today revealed that the personal details of almost every public servant who has ever worked for the Queensland government over the past 8 years have been automatically shared with unions under a Labor bid to boost their membership. Now, is this all above board, or should people have a bit of concerns that, if they're working for the government, their data is automatically going to get flogged off to one of the public service unions?
Yeah, I think I've got some doubts about that. I'm not sure that's a very good idea at all. Now, I know strengthening unions strengthens labour, so it's an obvious ploy, but I'm not sure if it's the correct one, and it's certainly one that I would not do given the same circumstances.
Indeed, indeed.
James, can
yes.
I add this, please?
Go for it.
As a party, Labor like to talk about freedom of association. But the reality is that if there's true freedom of association here, employees would have not just the opportunity to become a member of a union if they want, they'd have a free choice about which union they might wish to be in. For instance, this information hasn't been shared with the non-Labor donating unions, such as the Nurses Professional Association of Queensland or the Teachers Professional Association. And it hasn't been the case that people can be assured that if they don't want to be a part of a union, they won't face the kind of badgering that we've had reports of here in Queensland. So freedom of association is a two-way street. It needs to be genuinely free, not just a licence for the Queensland State Labor Party to funnel dollars and influence into their puppet masters' pockets. It needs to be genuinely free.
Indeed, indeed. And you mentioned freedom of association there. I love freedom of association. I love freedom of speech. I also love freedom of what to wear, which brings us to our next topic here. I want to get both of your thoughts on this really quickly. Council workers in North Sydney, according to the Daily Telegraph, could soon be banned from wearing or even carrying items made with fur or leather under a plan being proposed by one of their councillors. What do you think? Amanda, the councillor who started this, claims she's trying to protect the council from what she called cancel culture, but surely they've got this the other way around, don't they?
Look, I think they have misunderstood the concept of cancel culture.
Sorry, Richo?
I think that I was saying it rhymes with bank. That's what this is. It is ridiculous. And, but North Sydney Council has been at this sort of thing for a long time.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. All right, well, listen, thank you so much for both of you guys. I want to just say one more thing here, because Amanda Stoker, huge news here. Before you go, you have a new show premiering on Sky January 29th called Sundays with Stoker. Can you very quickly tell us about it, Amanda?
It's going to be a really good opportunity for us to dive deeply in some of the most complex issues that face this nation, and it's a chance for the wonderful audience of Sky News Australia to become a part of the show and make their contributions on those policy issues. So I'm really looking forward to that opportunity. We're going to really engage with some of the toughest stuff facing this country and hopefully come up with some really good solutions.
Great stuff, Amanda. Can't wait to watch it. Thank you so much, Amanda Stoker and Graham Richardson.